Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am here for another business spotlight with my good friend Brent Knott of Design It Wraps. Brent, how's it going, brother?
Good, man.
Cool. Tell us a little bit about how you got into this. Like
Mm,
what? Tell us about what you do and what led you to actually want to run your own business.
my situation was purely accidental. Right place, right time. I was working for a guy that um, wasn't necessarily the best type of person to work for, but he had the wool over my eyes, and I had an opportunity to be in an equitable position of his business and all this good stuff. And he was just doing the wrong things and maxing out credit cards, not telling his wife and all that stuff. Just bad person and some other things. And so I was just like, this guy would mess me over in a heartbeat if he's going to mess his wife over. So let's get out of here.
Yep.
So got out of there, moved, or I didn't move down to Florida. I actually had put all my possessions, I believe it was in Alabama at the time with my mom. So I drove over to Alabama, then drove south to Florida to wrap two Porsches in a guy's like man cave. And wrapped the two Porsches. They were like, hey, this is pretty good. We told some of our friends, would you like to wrap some more? Come to find out, he owned a Porsche racing series. And so they kept bringing Porsches to me. So I wrapped like 6 Porsches out of his shop while living out of a hotel. And over that, he was interviewing me, and we ended up going into business together. And he didn't need to do that. He's very wealthy. There's no dollar I can make to change his lifestyle.
Yeah.
And in the end, he really just wanted to help me get on my feet and saw the situation I was in, and also saw that I was willing to do a lot of work. Like I was living in a hotel, wrapping cars because I had to out of survival.
Yep.
So that's pretty much my introduction in entrepreneurship. It was purely accidental. I wasn't because I was like, oh, I could do this better than my boss. I actually couldn't wrap at the time. The first car I did for him was the third car I'd ever done.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it was purely because I needed the money. Like,
Yeah. It was all hustle.
it was all hustle. And so, and he knew that. He could tell by watching me that I was good, but I wasn't proficient. And the end result was totally fine, but it took me a really long time to get there.
Yeah. So now, if you wrap that same car, you'd probably do it in a fraction of the time.
A day. I can wrap an entire Porsche race car in a day, whereas it took me 2 weeks to wrap the first car.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're not kidding.
No. I wrapped a lot of Porsches.
That's funny. So you don't just wrap cars, though, right?
No.
Talk about all the other things that you do, because a lot of people get that confused.
Yeah.
It's a big industry.
Yeah, when people hear vehicle wraps, they usually go more towards the color change sector.
Mhm.
Whereas really we focus more on it started with race cars just because that was the low hanging fruit through the network of the opportunity that I was provided. But really commercial work is what really pays the bills. It's a larger market. It's the skill level isn't as high. It can be, but it's not required. The industry standard is much lower than, say, if I were to wrap your personal car, and because it's your baby.
Yeah.
And you don't have to tuck all the way around. You can trim it flush and little small things that really greatly speed up your time on wrapping the car. Well, so we predominantly do commercial vehicle wraps, and then we can also do architectural stuff. So like behind me, I have core values on the wall. This is my Jack's location. I'm doing a project over here today, and but my office, all 4 walls are wrapped. It's got core values, logos, really decked out to show what we can do for people and create like a culture and image and branding even within your office. We've done kids rooms with animals and stuff. So I mean, really wrapping, you can wrap almost anything. In China, they're actually wrapping furniture now, so that when you want to change the color of your furniture, they actually do a architectural grade wood grain. Mm-hmm. Instead of replacing the furniture, they just change the surface.
Yeah, I like it. It's smart. Yep. So walk us through like some of the biggest lessons that you've learned, or some of the biggest mistakes, and how you got over them. Because I'm sure, like, I've stepped in every pile of shit that you can. Yeah. I try not to step in the same pile twice, though. So, Let's talk about something.
I stepped in the same pile for 8 years. That's basically holding on to the technician role.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what most people do in any kind of like artsy skill, whether it be plumbing, stuff like that. Like we're artistic with the craft of like doing a really good job.
Yeah.
Like electricians, the people who post the really pretty wire photos and all that stuff, like that's cool, but and it does help to a certain degree, but is it really scalable that way? And it can be, but it has to be done correctly. And I held on to the squeegee thinking that nobody can do it like me, all this stuff. And to a degree, they're right in regards to me hiring somebody. It doesn't mean that another entrepreneur couldn't do it like me, because they're in the same position.
Yeah.
But an employee is typically going to care less unless you actually sell them on the vision and you're a good leader. Now I've got pretty good installers where they're still not quite as good as me, but it's irrelevant because, again, that bar for the commercial work is set to a certain point. You don't have to be better than the bar. You just have to get it done.
Yep.
And so as long as they're meeting that standard, it's irrelevant. And so we just aim for the standard now versus trying to be the most artistic, because at the same time, I'm trying to teach them how to not do the same mistake to where they're creating freedom for themselves and not getting trapped in the installer role themselves.
Got it.
So that's my biggest mistake, was hanging on far too long to the squeegee. I still put hands on film. I have one position that I still haven't replaced, but we're training the team, and it's a very it's more of a retail-based product, which is clear bra, and that industry is exploding. And so I still haven't passed the torch on that. But slowly, every single job, we make sure to be training on it. So it's intentional work now versus me just doing it, me doing it. It's we do it together. And then now it's gotten to, I do the bumper, you do the hood and fenders. And eventually they'll transition to the bumper, and then I pass the torch. So just letting go is the biggest mistake by far.
I think we're all guilty of that. And if you say you're not, you haven't actually, you fucking lie, or you haven't actually run a business.
Or they're the unicorn, like my mentor, who can do the work, but understands the value proposition of his time. That's his quirk, or his skill set is truly understanding the fundamental course to business.
Mm-hmm.
And there are certain people that's their legitimate skill. And I am jealous of those people.
Yeah. It's not easy, right? Like, you care. It's even hard for me, right? But it's necessary for growth. What are some of the other things that you think, if you look back in time, what did you really learn from, and what did you learn? Like, what was the lesson?
So I would say the second thing, fortunately, I didn't have to make the mistake, but more just an awareness. My mentor made me do spreadsheets on every job.
Okay.
And I never understood it until much later as to like the value behind knowing your numbers to that degree. Now, I didn't know my numbers on a profit and loss ledger to that degree, but I knew it per job case. And so I didn't, because of the front loaded work that I was doing, we never actually were negative. We were always positive, especially while I was doing the physical work. So granted, that was very difficult to do the spreadsheet, the sell, the production, and the install. I was working 80 hours a week, but as long as I stuck to that structure, we never lost money.
Yeah.
Ever. Now, when I deviated from it, when I got a little, like, you get the ego after many years of doing it, you'll deviate from the fundamental part of it. And then it's like maybe cost of goods sold went up, but you're not doing your spreadsheet now. So your margin went down, and you don't realize it until 3 months later. And all of a sudden it's like, why am I out of money?
Yeah.
So I learned the lesson much later, and that's actually more like this last year as I started to buy my time back.
Mm-hmm.
I had to slow down and pump the brakes and go back to doing the spreadsheets, making sure that, are we actually profitable on this job? And he essentially kind of called me out on it. Like I said, yeah, we had 2 record months back to back. And he goes, what are you doing with your cash? Of course, in my head, I know that I wasn't as profitable on those months but it was a baited question because that's what he wanted to know. And so I was like, well, expenses are higher. We've been advertising, and he's like, what's your percentage of labor? And I was like, don't know. And he sat me down and chewed me out, as
There
he
you go.
does. He doesn't let anything go. Immediate conversation. And so, and he just asked me, he goes, do you want to be a thermometer or a thermostat? Because your business is running you and you don't even realize it. And he goes, you need to control your numbers. You need to control what's occurring. And until you do, you're not running a business. And so that just doing a spreadsheet to truly know what's your cost of goods sold and all that stuff, then learning how to run a profit and loss ledger is totally different.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of administrative work to make sure it's accurate. But now we've gotten to the point that we took all those core fundamental skills and we actually run tracking. As long as the data is entered by employees per the SOP, we can run a profit and loss per project automatically just by operating. And so we can do biweekly reports that are separate to the QuickBooks reports, to where we can actually identify, was that job even worth it? What were the errors? If we made mistakes, who was it made by? Can we see KPIs of when was the last time that employee made a mistake? Is it too often? So we don't have to make emotional decisions anymore.
Dude, I love that.
Yeah.
That is fucking phenomenal. People would kill to have that mentor, by the way.
Oh yeah. He's
like, legit. Like
that's
pretty cool.
I was very fortunate. I don't take it for granted at all. Even down to like now, I do a lot of mentoring with my staff, and I have to reel myself in sometimes whenever like I'm being impatient with like one of my locations where we're teaching them how to run their own shop.
Yeah.
And they don't know what they don't know. And I definitely don't know what Bill knows. And so I just use that as my balance. Is when I go to get upset, I'm like, you know what? It took me 6 years to learn some of these lessons that I'm trying to teach this guy, and he's only a year into it.
Yep.
And I'm not even as good as Bill. I couldn't imagine the amount of patience that he had to have with me, because he just sees it clear as day. Like,
yeah,
you got a train coming at you and you don't even know it.
Nope. Dude, that's awesome. So talk to me. How many locations do you have right now?
We have 3.
Okay. And what is the game plan going forward? Get all 3 profitable and then expand for a 4th, or?
So the game plan has shifted a lot in the last year. And I really feel like I just came on this. Like, I've been really reflecting. I just got back from Mexico, 14 days off. Let the team run the ship purely. I only talked to one person on the team, which was operations manager. And we only really talked for like 1 or 2 hours out of the day for simple questions. And otherwise, I just did what I wanted to do. So I chose what I got to do for 14 days. And I really thought about it. I'm a high on the DISC assessment. I'm like a 99% money driven person. The problem is I don't know that I was entirely happy. And so, after 10 years of grinding and all that stuff, it ended up in divorce, a lot of other things. And a lot of that was my fault for sure. It just got too far out of alignment and it couldn't steer back right. Okay. So I'm more on track of like figuring out what makes me happy. So money's now second. What makes me happy? Important. Yeah. And so like I put money first because it was going to solve my problems, take care of this person and all that stuff. Because I'm a take care person. Like, I take care of people. I like to do that. I get lots of dopamine drops from doing good for other people. The problem is sometimes you can do good for other people and that's not actually what they want. Like, the specific do good for somebody else isn't what they define as do good. Yeah. It could be acts of service instead of money. It could be gifts. So it depends on their love language. And so you have to really identify the context of the circumstance. And so I'm trying to figure out what makes me happy. And so I think where I've kind of landed on the vision, it's still in alignment to what it was. So long-winded answer for what you asked is Design It is going to be an employee-owned business in which it is a I can't think of the correct word, but basically it facilitates it's an incubator for people that want to be in the industry, for people that want to start their own business but don't have the skills and or the money to do it themselves. So they can work for me for 5 years and we'll teach them the skill set to do so, and I'll own or finance a location for them.
Cool.
And so in that, what I get out of it would be I then turn into their consultant for the shop, and I get the consulting fee per month. And so, and then obviously I'm a partner on the location as well. And actually the real end goal is to be less of a partner on the business and more so own the commercial real estate that they go into. That's the grand scheme, right? So if I only have 5 shops for design it, that's fine. Consulting $500 to $1,000, it's decent wage for the amount of input that it requires, but I'm also affording the opportunity to change somebody's life. And then I just acquire assets as we go, and it's a pretty good win. Because a lot of my energy is moving more towards the systems and processes side of it, where we're enterprising the systems that I have and selling it to the industry directly, and then injecting it into other businesses. And so we are, Torque CRM is what that is, and it's basically Go High Level. But Go High Level is nothing by itself. It's a shell. It's a great tool right out the gate, but then you hit a ceiling very quickly, and then you have to spend a year building it out. But the problem with building it out yourself is you have to learn the software and also think about your SOP at the same time, and that's difficult. And so the logic starts to get screwed, and then you have to explode it and do it again. And so now instead we are like a done for you operating system where we go in, we ask questions, we get their SOPs that exist, we add our SOPs that exist in our business. How do you like that? We manipulate it, works with their specific business, and then we build out the snapshot for them.
That's so smart. I love that.
So that's what we've got, I think we have 22 active users already. We've been doing it since last July. And it's been a lot of fun, and it's very fulfilling too, because like I said, I like to do good for people.
Yeah.
And we've had 3 like flat out come to us and like, dude, this changed my business entirely. And I'm like, we didn't do anything. We just gave you tools and you did all the work. And so to see a company go from $550,000 to on track to do like 1.1 this year in 1 year is really cool.
That's insane.
Yeah.
You helped a lot of people, because you didn't just help that one guy. You helped this whole team,
staff, everybody.
Community. I love that.
Yeah.
That aligns very much with what I do. That's why I'm doing it.
Yep.
That's cool. So where do you see your industry is kind of unique? Obviously, the car wraps are easy. Someone just pays cash. But a lot of the commercial work, that's a bit of a challenge, because you guys are doing the work, getting paid, 30 days later.
Yep.
For the most part. How do you manage that? Because there's a lot of businesses that are in that situation that have to wait 15, 30 days to lay out their funds.
Yeah, I mean, so we don't do too many of those ourselves just yet. Okay. We try to negotiate. Even with the big companies, we always negotiate first, because you get what you ask for. And so we'll say, listen, I understand you're a net 30 company. How about this? Unfortunately for you, we're not a bank. We're in the wrapping business. And so we try to negotiate. Will we accept 30-day terms on a good project? Absolutely. Do we try to go for net 14 at the very least? Absolutely. And we try to get a deposit of half up front. And usually that covers your expenses outside of the shop. So it covers your installer and all of that stuff. It doesn't cover like your roof and all that good stuff. So you do need to revolve the job pretty quickly on cash flow side. But very worst case scenarios, we'll use somebody like you and do the I can't remember, factoring, where and so we still would prefer to pay the points on the factoring, and just, we're a small business. We're not operable to run something where we're sitting on a weighted payment.
Yeah.
It's just not how this is made.
The biggest misconception of that is, and I think we spoke about it, invoice factoring, the little guys, me and you, most of us don't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is, the bigger companies and the medium-sized companies, they've been doing it for years.
Mm-hmm.
They use it all the time. Why? Because you don't want to wait. Like, you cannot run a business waiting and outlaying all that cash and then waiting 30 days to get paid.
Nope.
Especially if you're growing. It's just the math. It doesn't work. And the
Mhm.
worst thing you could do is borrow. Okay, use a line of credit, use a loan, use any type of product, borrow to get ahead and grow.
Mhm.
And I know that's weird, but the right thing to do is set up the invoice factoring, then get a line of credit for the odds and ends.
The best part is you can actually, if you do your spreadsheets, you can just go ahead and put it in as an expense.
Yes, yes. There's stuff that dude, I teach everybody that's in commercial. I'm so happy you said that. I teach everybody that is in commercial construction how to bid in the financing.
Mhm.
So I teach them, hey, if it's $1 million contract, you'll be able to draw 20% before you start. It's going to be 5% per 30 days. So factor that into your bid, and then you're good. You're good to go. Just do it that way. That's why I love what you did with the detail, because I can think about, on one hand, how many businesses know if they're profitable or break even per job in that amount of detail.
Yeah, it's important. And yeah, that's what we've always done with the credit card fees, because I prefer card over cash only because I don't have to go to the bank.
Yeah.
It cost me more than the 2.8% or whatever to go to the bank than it does to just have it and keep working on something productive. Yeah. And so we've always there's a line item on my spreadsheet that's card fee, and then it gets charged to every customer I think I do at 2% currently, and I charge it to every customer. And that way, if they do pay with a check or cash, I made 2% more, and it's got a nice balancing. We're not speeding, we're not trying to take from the customer, but we're just trying to balance out that expense.
Of course, you have expenses, right? It costs you for them to get their points. You should kind of even that out.
Yep.
So now that you have that growth plan, right, which I love, by the way, that's very Walmart and McDonald's of you, which is genius. And by the way, I think the next 6 to 24 months is a great time to buy commercial property because it's all going down.
Yep.
Big, fast, and in a hurry. Nobody wants to hear that. That's the truth. How are you lining that up? Like, what is your goal to get how many locations open over the next, call it, 2 years?
I'm focused less on that than I have been in before. Okay. If I would have told you 6 months ago, I'd probably said like 5 or 6. I'm more focused right now on truly the happy part.
Okay.
And so I don't know what that is just yet, because I'm trying to put money on the back burner to an extent. Obviously, there's certain needs and necessities with money, so it's like I'm not ignoring or neglecting it. It's just not the number one driver. I would say that first goal for me is perfect the 3, regardless of the opportunity cost. And I say perfect loosely. You're not going to perfect. Yeah. It depends on where they're at in the business, but really get I'm having to backdate a lot of my work right now where like I have a really good system. I have really good software. The problem with the system is it's trained in the brain of people. It's not on paper. And so we're having to go back, and that's like my job every day right now when I'm not doing ClearBra is recording videos, sending it to a VA or doing it myself and writing out the actual SOP to build a training manual of this is week 1 for a vehicle wrap installer. This is week 1 for so-and-so. And then like, if we do hire somebody, cool, we're documenting what we do to try to expedite it in case they do leave to where we can do it faster the next time. So we're having to do a lot of backwards work for many years of not doing it.
Yeah.
Which is good because you got to do it at some point. The best time is yesterday. So that's where a lot of our focus is going. And so once that occurs, then we can actually do 4th and 5th a whole lot faster too, with less pain. And that's what we've identified with the third one. The second one wasn't a problem because it was small enough that it didn't create enough of a pain point.
Mm-hmm.
The third one definitely put a lot of tension on everybody, and communication wise especially. And fortunately, nothing really negative happened. Just in general, you could see that the tension was much higher than norm from the third one. And it helped really bring out the clues of what the hell we needed to fix.
That's all. By the way, I did that. Very tedious what you're doing. I did it, miserable, but game changer.
It's required.
Yeah, 100%. Document everything. Lets you scale a lot faster, a lot easier. What are some of the challenges that you brought on? Because you mentioned communication, going from 2 locations to having that third. Like, what were the challenges with getting that additional one? And what were some of the things you learned, and how did you fix those challenges?
Well, the biggest thing is I've done everything out of pocket more so.
Okay.
Me and you, we worked on a line of credit for the third one. And obviously me and banks for some reason don't get along. I literally just got turned down on a HELOC that's fully paid off on a house. So like banks just don't like me. And I keep playing the game and I'm learning more and more and more. But like coming from the background that I did with my life, like I didn't have any credit until I was like 25 or 26 at all. And so I had to like build it up really late just because of how I was raised. I was raised, if you can't afford it, you don't buy it. Very poor mindset. And so the biggest thing would be that, we're trying to float the capital to purchase all the inventory for that location. And so sometimes we would like shortchange it where it's like, we have the inventory over here. Let's just move it over there. But then we forget that it's over there. We didn't buy it for over here. And it's just dumb. Whereas if we were to treat that as a true business, it would have its own line of credit for that location and it wouldn't matter. And it would operate truly as its own entity. At first, because of the rate that we grew, we weren't like commingling funds or anything like that, but it was all done under one EIN number.
Yeah.
Because it was so fast that I didn't have the systems in place to set up the structure for that business. And so I was doing it at the same time. Now it's all in place. It took, too long to do it, but now we're like documenting what is required to open a new shop. And then what needs to be done to open said shop. And it's, basically apply for SBA, get the EIN, get this, get that, blah, 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 blah. And that way it's truly operating as its own entity. So you can see its own profit and loss. Because we didn't even have a profit and loss for the third shop for 6 months.
Got it. How much does it cost to put up a shop?
Nothing. It's really not that bad. Not compared to a lot of things that I listen to with friends that are doing restaurants, gyms, and all that stuff. Like it's especially doing it the way I'm doing it hub and spoke, to where I don't need anything more than the shell, a faux wall in the front, if it's not already there. So if it's got an office, great. We just leave the office. But the one that we're building out right now is just a fictitious wall that doesn't go all the way to the ceiling. So there's no, it's really light. I think it's full build out, and this is being extra with air conditioning. Everything's like $70,000.
70,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's tools, inventory, everything you need.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yep.
You don't want an SBA for that, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, just in general, like it's very low, and I haven't had an SBA yet, so.
I got you when you do, but I'm just telling you, that's $70K is that's great. That's streamlined, man.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to work with you, wants a car wrapped, wants to learn more about the space, where's the best place for them to find you?
I'm probably the most active on Facebook, and just the name's Brent Knott, just as it shows on the screen. On Instagram, somebody had my name, so it's I am not Brent, so it's my name backwards. But I'm pretty active on both, but I would say I definitely favor the Facebook side. And then the company's Design It Wraps and Torque CRM.
Cool, man. Torque CRM?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I love it, man. Hey, thank you so much for joining and dropping this. I enjoyed this conversation, man.
Yeah, man. Likewise. I always enjoy chatting with you, man.
Hey, anything I can do, I'm always here to help.
Sweet, man. Appreciate you.